Thank you, Hassam, for that introduction. Sean Fraser, great to be here with you, and thank you for all your leadership in helping us tackle the housing crisis. Great to be here with so many caucus members, too. Ministers Gary Anandasangari and Yara Sachs, MPs Julie DeBrusen, James Maloney, and Julie Zarowitz. Mayor Chap, Olivia, it is such a pleasure to be back here with you today. Thank you for having us here in Toronto. Your city is experiencing the housing crisis in a very real way. You need a real plan to build more housing so that people can afford good places to live, so this city can continue to grow and thrive. But before I begin, I want to address the devastating news we woke up to about the earthquake in Taiwan. Canada stands ready to provide support and have reached out to Taiwanese officials. We're also engaging to make sure affected Canadians have the support they need. Je veux prendre un moment pour dire que nos pensées sont avec les gens affectés par le tremblement de terre qui a frappé Taïwan. Le Canada est prêt à apporter son soutien et on a pris contact avec les autorités taïwanaises. On s'engage aussi à faire en sorte que les Canadiens touchés aient le soutien nécessaire. So our budget this year is about building an economy that is fair for everyone. And one of the things that really doesn't feel very fair these days is the price of housing. It used to be that if you worked hard at a good job, you could afford a roof over your head. Après des décennies de manque d'investissement et d'inaction de la part de tous les niveaux de gouvernement, la classe moyenne a l'impression que c'est impossible d'avoir un bon logement abordable. C'est une situation inacceptable. Il faut que ça change et le meilleur moyen de faire baisser les prix est de construire plus de logements. That's why our government is stepping up to build homes faster than we have in generations. As a federal government, we've been taking leadership and making those generational investments to incentivize and support more supply. Housing gets built when every order of government steps up and our private sector and nonprofit partners have the right incentives to get shovels in the ground. Well, today, we're announcing that upcoming Budget 2024 will invest in a new initiative we're calling Canada Builds. Canada Builds is going to turbocharge affordable apartment construction in partnership with provinces and territories. It'll provide low-cost loans, help speed up development, and build projects at the scale necessary to meet the urgent needs of Canadians. Let me walk through the details. We're going to make a massive injection of funding into our existing apartment construction loan program, another $15 billion available. And we're going to make the entire pot of funding available for matching partnerships with provinces and territories who come to the table with ambitious and fair housing plans. Plans that get homes built quickly and at scale. Plans that build the right housing for the right places, whether low-rise or high-rise, one-bedroom or multi-bedrooms. And plans that meet the existing expectations that this fund help build apartments that the middle class can afford. Housing built for hardworking nurses, teachers, first responders, and even the very construction workers that'll help get these units built. And we're also going to make innovative reforms to the apartment construction loan program, reforms that will expand access to these funds so we can meet the needs of Canadians at every age, whether young families, students, or seniors. That'll help us fast-track the application process for proven builders. It'll encourage getting projects built on a bigger scale. These reforms will help make the math work for builders and speed up construction. Canada Builds is itself based off an idea that British Columbia came up with, and it's an idea that is fundamentally practical and fundamentally fair. Where provinces and territories show leadership, our government is ready to partner, and today we want to scale that ambition up right across the country. Aujourd'hui, on annonce l'initiative Bâtir au Canada, qui va permettre de construire des logements abordables d'un bout à l'autre du pays. L'initiative va aider des partenaires à construire plus de logements locatifs, des partenaires comme des gouvernements, des constructeurs, des promoteurs et des organisations sans but lucratif. Avec notre programme de prêts pour la construction d'appartements, on va établir des partenariats avec les provinces et territoires et leur offrir des prêts à faible coût. Et on va réformer le programme pour financer plus de logements destinés aux personnes âgées, aux étudiants et aux familles. On va s'assurer de construire des appartements avec des loyers abordables qui répondent aux besoins de toutes les générations. Et pour le logement au Québec, on va bien sûr continuer de travailler en partenariat avec la province. Canada Builds initiates new levels of ambition with provinces and territories and incentivizes builders all to get more homes built for the middle class faster. And we need this from coast to coast to coast in communities of every side. Canada's a big country, and when we take a Team Canada approach, there is no challenge too big. En travaillant ensemble, on peut construire des logements à des prix justes qui répondent aux besoins de notre pays en pleine croissance. On peut construire des logements qui répondent à vos besoins, peu importe où vous êtes rendu dans la vie. So let's get to work, build lots more homes, and build an economy that is fair for every generation. I'm now very pleased to turn it over to Canada's Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, Sean Fraser. Sean.
Bonjour et bienvenue tout le monde. C'est un plaisir d'être ici, chers collègues. Bienvenue aussi. Et Mayor Chow, it's wonderful to be with you here today. But I want to start by saying thank you, Hassam and the company for allowing us not just to be here today, but for the work that you're doing to contribute a solution to the housing crisis that we're experiencing across Canada and particularly here in Toronto. I had the opportunity to chat with some of the family members behind the company who are behind this project. And over the past 4 decades, they've been doing incredible work to build thousands of homes for residents. So to the family, to those who helped found this company, thank you for your contribution to Canada. It's so sincerely appreciated. We are living in a housing crisis, and it's revealing itself in a number of ways that are very human when you talk to the people who are going without adequate housing. We're seeing a generation of young people who are priced out of the market and are not focused on whether they can afford that dream home, but whether they can maintain the place that they're renting today. Too many people are finding it difficult to actually find a place to live in the community where their grandkids are being raised. And when we price people out of the market, it's not just the individuals who suffer as a result, it's an entire community. It can be an entire country. Think about a young professional who's got an opportunity when they finish school to move to Toronto to get that first job in their field of choice. If they can't find a place to live and choose to move elsewhere, their talents and contributions impact the well-being of the entire city, particularly when this trend is repeated over and over. Now, after we formed government in 2015, we had a unique focus on addressing affordable housing, given that there was 3 decades with a lack of appropriate investment. But since the pandemic, we've seen that the housing crisis is impacting a lot more than just low-income families in Canada. Though we need to continue to build out more affordable housing stock, we also need to respond to the needs of a lot of middle-class families who are having a difficult time finding a place to live that they can actually afford. That's where today's announcement comes in. The $15 billion that we'll be injecting to the apartment construction loan program is over and above the $15 billion that was included in the fall economic statement. This makes this program a $55 billion low-cost financing initiative that could build more than tens of thousands of units, in excess of 130,000 units across this country. This is important because it's not just low-cost financing to build a building that would otherwise be constructed. We get something in exchange for providing this low-cost financing. Builders who use the apartment construction loan program commit to certain affordability requirements to ensure that a proportion of the units are actually accessible to people who are earning the median income in a given housing market. This is important because, as the Prime Minister said so eloquently, if you're teaching or working as a first responder, you should be able to afford a place to live in the community where you work. If you're working as a nurse and we're taking care of people who live in your community, you should be able to afford a place to live nearby. And the people who actually work in construction to build these homes for Canadians should be able to afford one themselves. The apartment construction loan program creates an opportunity to achieve that outcome, to create more homes for the middle class right across the country. Now, in addition to injecting cash into the program, there's an important eligibility requirements that are being shifted to make it easier to build more homes faster. The kinds of things that we'll be doing going forward are going to extend the terms of the loan to reduce the potential monthly cost for home builders. We're going to be looking at expanding eligibility as we have first for student residences and now to expand it potentially for more seniors apartments as well. We're going to be adopting a portfolio approach that will allow builders who are frequent users of the program to have streamlined access to the program and have flexibility in the eligibility requirements, because if you're building 5 projects and you're familiar to CMHC, you shouldn't need to apply 5 different times. By adopting a portfolio approach, we can get more done more quickly with builders who have a history of delivering on the program to date. But in addition to the apartment construction loan program, I'm particularly excited about the opportunity that Canada Builds represents. What we can do when we partner with provinces and territories who agree to match cash, who put land on the table and create other incentives, is we can scale up the output. When we work with provinces and territories to build out more middle-class workforce housing, more student housing, more seniors housing, we have the opportunity to meet local needs in provinces right across the country. Going forward, we're going to be seeking to enter bilateral deals to meet the local priorities of provincial governments who agree to match us in the same manner that the government of British Columbia did. This program is expected to deliver many homes for middle-class Canadians, and it's the kind of thing that will help provide a solution to the housing crisis that's impacting Canada and has a unique impact here in Toronto. Before I conclude, it's my honor and privilege to introduce my colleague and friend who's going to share a few words about the impact of this program on the City of Toronto. Mayor Chow, it's a pleasure to be with you. Please join us at the microphone.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Prime Minister Trudeau, for being here. And thank you to all the builders allowing us to be on site. Just a few days ago, my office received an email from Pat, and the title of the email is this: "Need help. We are losing ourselves and going crazy slowly and giving up hope." You see, Pat have been evicted even though she has a job, her fiance has a job, and they have a child. Since then, they were couch-surfing. They borrowed some money from families. They tried Airbnb. They took out a small loan of $5,000, and they are piling on debt. And they are just desperate. This is the housing situation facing a lot of young couples these days. It's tough. In Toronto, when we try to hire personal support workers, public health nurses, parks and rec workers, childcare workers, ambulance, EMS workers, you name it, we're having a hard time. Why? Because they said they can't afford to live in the city. And they often travel from elsewhere, long distance, because the rent might be a bit lower elsewhere. It's really, really difficult. And when you have an affordable place to live, when you're not paying more than half of the income on rent, then they can plan for the future. You can put aside money for families, for kids' education, or for rainy days, maybe even for a vacation. So as a mayor, getting housing back on track is my top priority. Last November, I introduced a very ambitious housing blueprint to build 65,000 rental homes. And these homes are for people of all different incomes, including thousands of affordable homes and rent geared to income homes. Today's announcement, Canada Builds, will build in Toronto 30,000 people will find a home, a new home. That's 17,000 units of housing. Right now, the City of Toronto has 68 housing projects where Shuffle is ready to hit the ground. It's ready to build. It just needs financing. And then on top of these 68 projects, we have a pipeline of 100 additional housing projects. If you combine those 168 projects, we have ready to build homes for 30,000 people, 30,000 Torontonians. And I just did the math late last night. With the announcement today, Canada Builds would be able to offer homes soon to 30,000 people. For that, we are very, very grateful. We can build homes for people like Pat that have written to us, for working families. We are going to build them faster and a lot maybe cheaper because of the low-cost financing. We have the sites. Toronto have identified sites that belong to us. We have the ambition. We have a strong partnership with the federal government, and together we can get housing in Toronto back on track. We can give people hope. The city, under my direction, has reduced barriers to getting housing built and speeding up approval process. We removed up to 200 days from the typical approval process. We removed the need for preliminary reports and set earlier community consultation meetings. Staff provided comments on application files has been reduced to only 14 days rather than months or sometimes years. We have eliminated parking requirement, especially near transit corridors. We have approved laneway housing, garden suites, basement suites, that then they are permitted in residential zones. We have, there are more. We have approved duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes in residential zones. We've approved 4 units on all residential lots are permitted, and even 5 units when there's a laneway suite or garden suite combined with a fourplexes. We have zoning to permit low-rise apartment buildings up to 30 units, more townhouses in many parts of Toronto. This will be considered committee and council in May and June of this year. So whether it's post-secondary education for young people, for families, for seniors, we have put a lot of the zoning in places. These changes are helping us build more faster, and we are already seeing results. In Toronto, we exceeded our provincial housing targets by 51% of the target. There's much more work we need to do to build more housing and making it affordable. Today's announcement of Canada Builds, coupled with last year, just before the holidays, the Housing Accelerator funds, will make a lot of dreams come true. It will give people hope. For that, we are very grateful to the Prime Minister and his Liberal team that are with us today. Thank you for your announcement. Thank you for your dedication of building housing. Let's continue to work together to deliver more housing for more people faster. Thank you.
Cal will now begin the media availability. 1 question, 1 follow-up. First question goes to Global News.
Good morning. Prime Minister, you and your members of your cabinet have defended Mr. Dong, saying you believe he did nothing wrong. Yesterday at the public inquiry into foreign interference, an intelligence document was tabled stating that Mr. Dong told Chinese officials that even if the 2 Michaels were released right away, opposition parties would view the PRC's action as evidence a hardline strategy against China works. The document also said Mr. Dong provided advice on what might, quote, help to placate public opinion and provide valuable talking points to the Liberal Party. When did you learn of CSIS's account of these conversations, and does this information change your opinion of Mr. Dong's fitness for caucus?
Foreign interference is a real challenge everywhere around the world. We know that certain countries and actors are engaged in trying to disrupt, in attempts to disrupt our institutions, our businesses, our economy, and our electoral processes. That's why in 2015 we started to work on protecting our country more from foreign interference. We created oversight bodies that watch both our elections process, that oversee all the work our national security agencies do, and we've continued to give them more and more tools. The ongoing Foreign Interference Commission is an important way of highlighting some of the challenges we face and some of the solutions that we've put forward to keep our democracy safe. And I want to reinforce to everyone that our expert, nonpartisan panel looking at the 2019 and 2021 elections confirmed that those elections happened in a way where the integrity held, where the outcome was decided by Canadians. Obviously, this commission is ongoing, and I look forward to being part of it. I will be testifying before the commission next week. This is an important way of answering these questions, of engaging with this in the right forum. Okay. L'ingérence étrangère est une réalité partout dans le monde. Il y a des pays qui veulent interférer avec les processus démocratiques, les institutions, l'économie de pays démocratiques, et nous avons besoin de mettre en place des mesures pour se protéger. Mais c'est exactement ce qu'on a fait avant les élections de 2019, avec des nouvelles mesures pour les parlementaires, pour les experts, d'assurer que le travail fait par nos services de renseignement et le travail fait pendant les élections continue d'être intègre. Et je peux rassurer tout le monde que les élections en 2019 et 2021 se sont passées dans toute intégrité. C'est les Canadiens qui ont décidé l'issue de ces élections-là. Mais évidemment, la commission d'enquête sur l'ingérence étrangère est en train de continuer et je vais y paraître la semaine prochaine pour partager mes réflexions là-dessus et le travail qu'on continue à faire pour protéger les Canadiens.
Thank you, but with all due respect, you didn't really answer the question in that, does this information change your opinion of Mr. Dong's fitness for caucus? And also, in light of the testimony and the documents you've heard, will you allow Mr. Dong to return to caucus? And why have you not done so already?
Obviously, these are ongoing conversations that need to be taken very seriously, and we are. This commission is an important moment for Canadians and for our institutions to really take stock of everything we've done to keep Canadians safe and look at what more might be needed to be done by our intelligence services to keep the integrity of our democratic institutions and our economy whole. That's why I'm looking forward to participating next week in the Commission's work.
Thank you. Next question.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. Myriam Médaillard pour Radio-Canada à Toronto. 3 directeurs de campagne, dont le vôtre, ont déploré avoir été mamoutillés par les services de sécurité pour justement faire face à la menace de l'ingérence étrangère lors des 2 dernières élections. Est-ce qu'il faut revoir les façons de faire et partager davantage d'informations pour que cet enjeu soit pris au sérieux?
C'est exactement une des raisons pour laquelle une commission qui regarde l'ingérence étrangère et quels sont les processus en place et comment on peut les améliorer est une bonne idée et ce qu'on est en train de faire maintenant. Oui, on a mis en place des mesures pour les élections de 2019 et 2021 qui n'existaient pas avant. Alors le travail fait pour veiller à l'intégrité des élections pendant ces élections-là, ça n'avait jamais été fait avant, même s'il y avait eu des attentats d'ingérence depuis des décennies. Donc, on s'est outillé avec plus d'outils et avec ces nouveaux outils-là, on est en train de regarder qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire de plus et on va continuer de le faire parce que protéger les Canadiens, protéger notre démocratie, c'est fondamental pour le bien-être de notre pays.
English, please.
We know there have been ongoing attempts over the past many elections to interfere with processes in our elections. That's why when we took office, we put in place new protocols and procedures to protect the integrity of our elections in 2019, 2021 specifically, and that allow us to say with certainty that the outcome of those elections were decided by Canadians, not by anybody else. And that should reassure people, but always there's more to do, which is why this public inquiry into foreign interference is going to look at all the measures and processes that are in place, all the processes that we've put in place, and make recommendations about what more we can all do working together to ensure that our elections and our democratic institutions remain robust and protected from foreign interference.
L'ancien chef conservateur affirme que 5 à 9 sièges lui ont possiblement échappé à cause de l'ingérence. Avec les informations que vous avez maintenant, et je comprends que ça continue à être disponible pour vous, est-ce que vous avez la même lecture des résultats de 2021?
Je comprends que pour M. O'Toole, il aimerait regarder des raisons autres que sa propre performance qui a mené à leur échec dans les élections. Mais les experts dans nos services de sécurité de renseignement et les fonctionnaires haut placés, indépendants, qui formaient le panel qui était chargé d'assurer l'intégrité des élections par rapport à l'ingérence étrangère, ont conclu définitivement que les élections en 2019, les élections en 2021, n'ont pas été affectées par l'ingérence étrangère. On sait que oui, il y a eu, comme il y a toujours, des attentats d'ingérence étrangère, mais ces attentats n'ont pas abouti à des changements dans les résultats des élections, ni dans aucun siège à travers le pays.
Next.
I can understand where someone who lost an election is trying to look for reasons other than themselves why they might have lost an election. The reality is we put in place a panel formed by top independent public servants, a task force staffed by security officials throughout our intelligence and security services to ensure the integrity of the 2019-2021 elections. And the conclusion of all those mechanisms is unequivocally that the election's integrity held, that not a single riding or the result of the overall election was impacted or changed because of foreign interference. That is something that Canadians can take comfort in and be confident that because of the mechanisms we put in place and all the studies and reports done after the fact, our elections integrity held in 2021 like it did in 2019, and we're going to continue to do everything necessary to make sure that all future elections in this country continue to be decided by Canadians and Canadians alone.
Thank you. Next question.
Continuing theme, Conservatives at the Foreign Interference Inquiry alleged...
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak closer into the mic, please?
Conservatives at the Foreign Interference Inquiry alleged that you got more briefings than their leader did about potential foreign interference during the election. They also say the government and security agencies did not take evidence they passed on seriously enough in the days after the vote. Why should Canadians trust that there wasn't a finger on the scale?
I think one of the unfortunate things is that this is something that should bring all parties together to work constructively, and unfortunately the Conservatives continue to try and play partisan games with the facts and the issues before us that are very, very seriously. We have independent panels that have put out clear reports on what happened and what didn't happen during those elections, which meaning the election integrity held, and we now have a commission of inquiry that is going through all the various facts. I'm going to trust the Commission to continue to do its work. I look forward to participating next week, and I look forward to the reports of the Commission that will both, I'm certain, reaffirm the integrity of those elections, but also make important recommendations so how we can move forward in a constantly evolving threat environment to keep our elections safe and our democratic institutions safe for the future.
Thank you. About today's event, Doug Ford and other premiers have rejected the conditions laid out in the housing announcement. Ford said he won't force municipalities to make fourplexes as of right now. How do you advance your housing plan with this kind of opposition?
We've actually moved forward on an extremely ambitious housing plan here in Toronto with the Housing Accelerator that brings in 4 plexes, 4 units as of right, and indeed for many, many municipalities right across the country. And we're going to continue, as we said yesterday, to work with those municipalities that want to work with us with $6 billion worth of infrastructure investments to allow more housing to get built. We'd love to do that right across the province, but if the province doesn't want to step up with ambition on building the infrastructure needed to support more housing in general across the province, we'll do it specifically with willing partners. Ideally, we work with the province. If not, I know Olivia has already told me, hey, send the extra money to Toronto. We'll build more homes. We want to keep growing. So this housing initiative and our entire frame on housing is about being as ambitious as we possibly can to support Canadians to get them into affordable homes. There's a lot the federal government can do, and we're doing it. There's a lot the federal government can do working directly with great municipalities like Toronto, from the biggest to the smallest, and we're doing that. In some places across the country, we're also working very, very closely with provinces that are equally ambitious on housing. And ideally, we'd work with all provinces if they are sufficiently ambitious on housing. We are there to be partners with them. If a province decides it doesn't want to be ambitious on housing, that's their decision. We'll work with the municipalities within that province that are ambitious. Today's announcement is a great example of that. The BC Builds model, British Columbia put forward a $2 billion investment in affordable housing that we matched with $2 billion from the federal government that is going to unlock massive amounts of affordable housing, especially for, as Sean and I mentioned, the nurses, the teachers, the construction workers, the emergency workers who work in a particular city to be able to live in that city. Now, we're very excited about provincial interest already in matching that program, in unlocking those federal funds so they can build more affordable housing right across the country. We are there to be partners, but we are there to be partners in ambition. That's what Canadians deserve, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
Next question.
Hi there, Ben Spur from the Toronto Star. This is a question for the mayor, actually. The federal housing funding announced yesterday came with the condition that cities freeze development charges. Provincial legislation that already is going to deprive Toronto of hundreds of millions in development charge revenue over the next decade or so. Can the city afford to forego more of that revenue as a result of the federal conditions yesterday?
The provincial Bill 23 that disallowed development charges and Section 37 bonusing plan has cost the City of Toronto about $230 million. Today, the federal government, they are not saying to the City of Toronto that thou shalt not charge development charges. It's saying that do not increase as the level that was set as of yesterday. We were not going to, in some of the other charges, we were not going to increase them. So that's a good explanation. It's not as if we cannot apply the charges. It's just we cannot increase it for 3 years. It's frozen as the level as of yesterday's level. So so it's not as severe as no charges. What we need is, of course, infrastructure funds. And there is an announcement in some infrastructure funds and also transit money. So we await the April 16th budget to look at how much transit funding would be available for municipalities permanently, and how much of the Canada Community Building Fund would be in terms of infrastructure. So all of that would assist the City of Toronto in building housing, especially around the transit corridor.
One of the measures that you put in place to help address the housing crisis here is the vacant home tax. We're hearing that there's been some problems with the rollout of that tax, including people mistakenly getting notices. What's going on there? What's the problem, and what are you doing to fix it?
Yeah, I know, and also City Councillor understand very clearly the rollout of the vacant home tax is not as desirable as we want. We have a commitment from the city manager that the program will be revamped and will be a lot better in the coming years, starting in 2025. As to what happened this year, we have extended the deadline, and perhaps because of the extension there is some confusion. We'll get to the bottom of it and make sure that anyone that are living in their homes would not be charged a vacant homes tax. And they could also appeal, of course, but if they have already sent in an application to say that they live there, I don't think there's any worry for them to be charged. So i.e. ignore the piece of paper that came to you if you have already done what you are supposed to do.
Next question.
Hi, for the Prime Minister. It's Jeff Gregg, Globe and Mail. You seem to be in a disagreement with the Premier of this province. Is he a NIMBY?
I think every province can reflect on how they want to move forward on building housing. What we've decided as a federal level is we're changing the way housing is built in this country. We're increasing densification. We're allowing more homes to get built faster in places people want to live with new affordable types of homes. 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom rental apartments that are affordable. These are the kinds of things we know are needed to respond to the scale of the challenge right now. It's not fair that young people who have a good job can't afford the place to live, can't even imagine being able to buy a home one day. That's what we're trying to change around. That's why investing in massive increases in housing supply at affordable levels is going to do massive amounts to alleviate the pressures and the strains and the lack of hope that Olivia was talking about that so many young people are feeling. We are there to be partners with the most ambitious jurisdictions in the country. That means with cities like Toronto, but also the 179 housing accelerator agreements we've signed across the country over the past number of months shows that there's a lot of people who are being maximally ambitious about responding to this housing crisis. There are provinces like BC and Quebec that have stepped up big time in addressing this housing crisis, and we're encouraging all provinces to do the same. But if a province decides that no, it doesn't want to be that ambitious, it doesn't need to be, or it doesn't fit their priorities, that's okay, because we will just work directly with municipalities who want to do that. But it's always easier if you can do it province-wide, because then you affect everyone with the same level of ambition. So we're going to continue to be there with open arms to be a partner to any province that does want to step up and be ambitious about the future we're building and fairness for every generation.
Jen.
Good morning, Mark Hamidou, the Canadian Press. Has Canada called the ambassador from Israel to discuss the deaths of aid workers in Gaza? And if not, why?
Yes, we have.
Have you told them?
We expressed, as I said yesterday, our dismay at the unacceptable deaths of a Canadian American aid worker, among with others in Gaza. This is an organization that is fighting against the very real humanitarian crisis going on in Gaza, like they do in places around the world. And the world needs very clear answers as to how this happened, and we need to again, continue to push for more humanitarian aid and a ceasefire that is going to bring that kind of support to people throughout Gaza who are suffering so terribly.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That concludes today's press conference.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde.